Dr. James JC Cooley. That's right.
Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guests will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on The Answer.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley and his guests will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore them or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley, and his guests will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 6 p.m. right here on 660 AM The Answer in Dallas-Fort Worth.
Yeah. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. The James Cooley Show. It's your life. Yeah. James J.C. Cooley.
Hello, welcome to the James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. I'm your host, Dr. James J.C. Cooley, and wow, we got our guest co-host back again with us, and she's been missed so much. We're talking about the one and only Paula Shaw. How you doing? How you doing today, Paula?
Hey, Paula's having technical difficulties, which she is resolving right now. But Paula Shaw, she is amazing. She does a series called Bridges Beyond Grief. She's an author, a grief specialist, and so much more. And she's having some technical difficulties, but she will rejoin us in a few.
Yeah, I hope she get these worked out, because this show right here is so important that we're going to talk about today. And a lot of folks don't know a whole lot about this, so they probably don't think it exists. We're talking about human trafficking, and we got a guest on today that's going to educate us, going to enlighten us, and let us know where a lot of this stuff is taking place, how it's taking place, And I tell you, I'm just so excited to get started with this show. So, whichever platform that you're watching us on, was you watching us on E36 television, Transfer TV, YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Rumble, Radio AM 660 Answer out of Dallas, AM 1170 Answer out of San Diego, and over 6 to 8 live platforms. Welcome to the show. If you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform that you're watching us on, ask any question that you might have. And I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Michelle, can you do the honor by introducing the title of the show, the purpose of the show, and introduce this absolutely fantastic guest?
Yes. The audience, the title of today's show is a very serious topic. It's called The Way Back from Human Trafficking. And we have Dr. Stephany Powell on the show today. She's a leading expert on human trafficking with a distinguished 30-year career as a sergeant in the LAPD's Vice Unit. As the former Vice President, Director of Law Enforcement Training and Survivor Services at the National Center on Sexual Exploitation, she provided crucial training to law enforcement nationwide. Following her retirement, she spearheaded Journey Out, a nonprofit aiding victims of human trafficking, significantly expanding its reach. She's an adjunct assistant professor at Los Angeles Trade Technical College and USC, and her expertise has been featured in PBS documentaries and HLN. She has educated over 12,000 professionals and authored key sources on human trafficking, including My Choice, My Body, My Rules, and Teaching Beautiful, Brilliant Black Girls. Recognized internationally, she continues to consult and train law enforcement on human trafficking and related issues. Please welcome to the show, Dr. Stephany Powell.
How you doing, Dr. Powell? How you doing today?
I love the audience. I love the audience. I just want to tell you that. Hello, Dr. Cooley. Nice to meet you.
You know, it's an absolute pleasure having you on the show. Paula had mentioned you several times. And wow, finally get an opportunity to meet you, ultimately, even though you're in California right now, we're in Texas. But this topic that we're going to talk about today is so important. And so many folks do not understand what it is, or frankly, they don't believe it. You know, so first of all, before we go off into this, can you tell our viewers and our listeners a little bit more about you, where you grew up, what made you click, and why you decided to venture into this career field?
Well, it's interesting. I have been working in some form of human trafficking since probably '08, but I was a police officer for LAPD for 30 years. Born and raised in Los Angeles, third generation. I started off as a school teacher for LA Unified School District, and from there I joined the department in 1983. Do not do the math. I've been retired since 2013. And because I ran a vice unit, I started we dealt a lot with prostitution. I started really learning a lot about human trafficking. And unfortunately, some of those that I was arresting. And from there, when I retired, one thing kind of led to another. I really felt a strong need to have people understand what human trafficking is in terms of awareness, prevention. And from there, it was important for law enforcement to understand that victims of human trafficking are victims. And so therefore, understanding the victimology of that. And so because of that, one thing has led to another. And I've just had this blessed opportunity to be able to share.
Wow. You know, and human trafficking, I believe, is more prevalent in the bigger cities and, you know, like LA, San Diego, and all other places. But many other people in the South, you know, where I grew up, they don't believe this. They think this is something that's just on television.
Well, you're absolutely right, and here's the deal: human trafficking can take place anywhere. So, like, to define it, human trafficking involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor or commercial sex act, right? So when we think about that, we know that it can happen anywhere, even in some small areas of the South, because oftentimes, I think the thing that we have to remember is that it could be anybody's daughter or son. So as a result of that, the traffickers could be family members, they could be friends, they could be also love interests. They can also be husbands. So as you could see, when we define it that way, human trafficking is happening in every major city, small towns, and so people. That's why people need to believe it, so that when a victim comes forth, they will believe that they're telling the truth. Now, the interesting thing about you being in Texas and me being in California, unfortunately, has consistently been the number one state for human trafficking, human sex trafficking, and Houston being the number one city. But it's important to understand that it's happening everywhere.
How do a person, or you've been in law enforcement for a long time, recognize, or how do you get your clues, or what's happening around? Do people come and tell you all, or it's just a thing that a certain neighborhood or area that more prevalent that happens around that? How do you know what's going on?
So that's where the force, fraud, and coercion piece comes in. It makes it very difficult because oftentimes victims do not self-identify. So let's take sex trafficking, for instance. Oftentimes they may not identify because of the fact that there might be some guilt, there might be some shame. They may not want they may fear that people are not going to believe that they are forced into commercial sex acts. So when we talk about commercial sex acts in and of itself, which is prostitution, when we talk about that, oftentimes people are really afraid to have those conversations. Then you have a trafficker that is telling them, if you tell, I'm going to hurt you. If you tell, I'm going to tell others what it is that you're doing. When we talk about labor, if you tell, you may get deported. There's so many reasons why they don't tell and why they don't self-identify. So yes, we will find cases where the victim has identified, but often if we look at, let's say it's a youth, because the average age of entry for sex trafficking is between the ages of 12 and 14 years old. For African American girls, it's 11. When we look at familial trafficking, the average age, it may start at the ages of 3 and 4, but we've also had cases where family members have pimped out or used photos, unfortunately, of even infants. So you could see how it could be very hard. So I use an example of the minors. I will tell parents, if you see that you have a child that's coming up with phones or material items that that you did not buy. If you see that they're not doing well in class, if you are not familiar with the type of people that they are hanging out with. Now, all these things in and of itself may not mean that it's sex trafficking, right? So some of the red flags that are there, yeah, we could go by them. That minor or that adult that seems to be with someone who they really don't know, or if they go to the hospital because they've been hurt, they're asked a question. They look at the person who brought them there in the first place to answer the questions. So, those type of red flags, we know that they are there, but they in and of themselves does not always mean that it's sex trafficking, right? So that's what makes it extremely difficult in terms of identification.
Hold that thought, Dr. Paul. We got to take a station break. This is interesting. I mean, already you just taught me a whole lot of stuff. We're gonna take a station break, whichever platform that you're watching us on. If you want to be part of the conversation, all you have to do is just go to the comments on that platform. Ask any question that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. We'll be back, and Paula Shaw got the next segment when we come back.
I'm finally here. I hope you can hear me.
We'll be back shortly after the break. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly.
Okay.
Noah Dingley here, producer of The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life. And the new audio version of James' book, Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet, is a must-have. James shares his true life story of struggle and success in America. It's both a cautionary tale and a roadmap to achieving the American dream. Get the new audio version of Country Boy, City Boy, A Journey That Ain't Over Yet by James Cooley on Amazon.com or wherever audiobooks are sold.
Really get a chance to know who you are. And once you know who you are, you truly know who you are, love who you are. Love who you are. You're a masterpiece. Love who you are. Love who you were born to be. Love me some me. That's what I'm talking about. When you leave high school, you gotta know today or tomorrow, or hopefully today, what your plans are. Hopefully, there is no bad decision unless there is no plan. Create, collaborate, commit with confidence. Commit with what? Commit with what? And everything that you do.
A Black Man's Point of View is the newest Amazon.com #1 release and bestseller book from author Dr. James J.C. Cooley, featuring the perspective from 11 other contributing authors. In A Black Man's Point of View, Dr. James Cooley unpacks his thoughts and personal experiences about the challenges, stereotypes, and feelings of self-worth that many black men face today due to a 400-year ancestry rooted in slavery and colonization. Yet, how so many black men move forward despite this history. Most importantly, A Black Man's Point of View conveys that all men, regardless of race, creed, or color, are capable of love, respect, and dignity. Described as a map to a greater life from the heart of a man who's experienced life's misfortune and harsh conditions, James shows us how beliefs, convictions, and a healthy mentality can help propel a life worth living. A must-read for all. Order your copy of A Black Man's Point of View by author Dr. James J.C. Cooley today from Amazon.com or wherever books are sold.
Let's go, let's go, let's go. It's the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Dr. James J.C. Cooley. All right.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, my guest co-host is she's with us now. She's with us
Finally. Oh, God. I hate technical difficulties. I'm so sorry.
That's okay. As you know, Paula always brings the best guests to educate us, to inspire us, to kind of get our juices flowing, because what we're talking about today is a major problem in the United States and all over the world as well.
Mm-hmm.
And to have Dr. Powell on the show to talk about these things and educate us is a blessing. And I hope everybody, pay attention, look, listen, and learn. Ask questions in the comments on whichever platform you're watching us on. Well, right now, I want to turn it over to Paula Shaw. How you doing today, Paula?
Well, I was doing great until somehow my computer decided not to cooperate. And, that's always a little panic because I'm not the most techie person on the planet. And I did not want to miss this interview because I like to just tell you, JC, I met Dr. Stephany at an event on human trafficking. And there were many prestigious people there, many speakers. This woman just jumped off the screen, as they say. When she started talking, I said, oh my God, I have got to have her on the show. And then when I heard her background, I missed the first question you asked her. I heard a lot of her answer, which was brilliant. But she was 30, I believe, 30 years on the LA Vice Squad. I mean, one of the reasons I think she can speak with the foundation she speaks from is she's been there. She's done it. She has walked the talk. And I that's why I so value everything she said. And stop me if this has been touched on, but I know, Dr. Stephany, people always say, well, how did they get into it? You know, what happens? Are they kidnapped or are they somehow forced? Can you talk a little bit, if you haven't already, about grooming and how this process happens, and particularly how it's now really tied into online and social media?
So people always ask, well, how do they get there?
Yeah.
You know, obviously, if it's familial trafficking that they're forced into, they get there unfortunately because it's their parent that is doing it. But oftentimes there's a push-pull factor to all of this. And as I say this, again, this could be anybody's daughter. This could be any social class. For the most part, only 1% are those that are kidnapped. 9 times out of 10, the victim knows their trafficker, and so that's what makes it so easy for them to be groomed, because they know that person, right? And if you talk about some of the push-pull factors, looking at things like poverty, lack of education, that wanting to be loved and looking to be validated, and the pull factor, and this is just a few of them. The materialism. A lot of times, if let's say it's a boyfriend-girlfriend situation where just wanting to be loved, and this person says, I'm the only one that can love you, but I need for you to do this, right? So that's kind of how these things start. And then when the person wants to pull out of it, that's when the emotional and physical abuse can begin.
And even threats to that person's family, right? Like sometimes they threaten that they're going to hurt the family if the person doesn't continue with the trafficking.
Right. Exactly. Absolutely. And so that's that. So the question always becomes, also, why don't they leave?
Yes.
The question of why don't they leave? Well, remember that coercion piece that we talk about. Sometimes they're in love with that person and they're afraid to leave because they're afraid no one else will love them. It may be that they don't leave because of what you just said, because threats to hurt the family, that they love their family so much they don't want them to be involved. So there's numerous ways of why they don't leave. It's not that easy. Plus, they now have been placed in a situation, if there is a lack of support, then where do they go to?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. How are they going to leave? And isn't it also the case that often compromising pictures have been taken and they threaten to expose them online or to the family?
So let's talk about online recruitment as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes what happens is they may meet the person through a dating site, or the person may reach out to them in terms of social media. I mean, how often, and we all have been we all have done this, where we've taken pictures of ourselves and put it out there. And if your settings are such where it goes to public, once you push send, it goes to everybody, right? And then you'll have people that will comment on your picture. Nice pic. Well, let's take a teenager, for instance, who is looking for that validation. How many likes are they getting? They want someone to validate them, right? And so now that person says, nice pic. As soon as they say thank you, now we're involved in a conversation. that, if we're not careful, can lead to more of a conversation, to then lead to meeting this person, to then leading to getting into a possible relationship with them.
Yes.
When we talk about the thing of sextortion, that's not always human traffic and driven. It can be, but it can be something as simple, again, of meeting somebody online, where, and I'm talking about kids right now, where they think they might, and they could be, because someone their age could do this, but they could be conceivably talking to that 40-year-old that's in the basement that says, hey, so, you know, but they're presenting themselves as someone their age that may say, hey, send me a picture of yourself, either in the bathing suit or nude, and then I'll send you a picture of me. And unfortunately, when that person sends that picture, again, they've lost control. Then that perpetrator come back to them and say, send me some more pictures. And then that's when the threats come. If you don't send me more pictures, I am going to put this on porn sites, or I'm going to put this out there to embarrass you. And again, sometimes this could happen within their own school setting, with people that they know within a high school, where they will send out those pictures and go viral. And then now you've lost control and power of that picture. And now this person has power over you. And when we think about it as adults, how often, when we've been teenagers, we try and fix it ourselves so that adults don't get involved. So if that teenager is told, send me 2 more pictures, they're thinking, if I send 2 more pictures, I could fix the problem.
Right.
It doesn't work that way.
And isn't it true, Dr. Stephany, that often they find kids who are in adversarial relationships with their parents? Or they have a parent that abandoned them, and the other parent's just getting by and not around very much. Is there some technology they use, or is there any way they can zero in on the kid who doesn't have a good relationship with mom and dad?
Well, they can. I mean, how often okay, so I'm old, I use Facebook. So let's take Facebook, for instance. You can look and see you can tell about a person based on the comments that they've made on Facebook. You could tell if they have a family that's fully involved. You could tell by some of their posts if they're lonely. You could tell if they're the lonely cat lady. Like, there's so many things that you could tell about a person based on their posts. So that's one way. And so that's why we always have to be careful in terms of our posts and the pictures that we show. Yes. But just by old-fashioned conversations with someone, you could tell a lot about them. And here's the deal. A perpetrator is very good at being able to speak with someone and see where those gaps are. So oftentimes, if it's let's say it's a peer-to-peer, right? They're about the same age. And traffickers will often use this. If you say, if you're really sad and you're pouring your heart out to this person, and you say, my parents don't really understand me. Well, guess what the perpetrator does? They say, I get it, because my parents didn't understand me either. Yes. But I understand you. That's where that emotional bond starts. And then that's where there becomes also a dependency. This person understands me. Now I'm going to them with all of my problems. And then when we're not careful, because this person has been so nice and kind to me, I feel that I now owe them. And they also put themselves in a position in that person's life that no one's going to love me like no one's going to love you like I do, because I understand you. So there's a method to their madness.
So obligation becomes a big piece of why a person keeps doing something they don't really want to do, correct?
Yes. And we all have done this. I mean, think about any relationships that we've been in, romantic relationships. Think about that. This is no different. The difference is unfortunately the person that they have fallen in love with is exploiting them. Because 9 times out of 10, that person isn't in love with them. They're exploiting them. But the person who's being exploited is very much in love with them because they've taken them down that path. One thing I think is really important that for people to understand is that not everyone that is in prostitution is a victim of human trafficking, of human sex trafficking.
Right.
But every victim of human sex trafficking is in prostitution. Does that make sense? But you also have people that are in prostitution that were sex trafficked, because remember I told you the average age is between 12 and 14. So now they're 19, 20, 23 years old and can't get out because they started so young. And as a result of that journey, now they're running into things like not having the proper education. You know, those obstacles start going in the way, having a poor arrest record. And then when you think about the psyche and the trauma and the low self-esteem they've been, and the trauma that they have been through.
Yes.
So having said that, you will have adult victims of human trafficking, or you'll have adults that are in prostitution. And the only reason why they're still in it, because there's so many obstacles in their way in order for them to get out, including
hold that thought. That's so important. We got to take a station break. But I want to come back to that because you mentioned a time frame, 12, 14, 19. And now you're locked into it. And that's when I believe that you said that love thing, meaning that the person that's taking care of them, they are dependent on them. I tell you, this is so important. We're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back with a lot more Paula Shaw and Dr. Powell. So if you want to be part of this conversation, all you have to do is just go to the platform that you're watching us on, ask any questions that you might have. I promise you, we'll get you an answer. Yes, your life. We'll be back shortly after the break.
Heaven abounds in you, enlightens, uplifts, inspires, and invites you to live a life that's engaged, joyous, and limitless, the sweet spot of life. Take this journey in oneness. We are and have all that God, the infinite creative source of the universe, is. You are infinite potentiality, and the kingdom of heaven is within you. Heaven abounds in you.
Dr. James J.C. Cooley from the United States of America, and I am here to just say, first of all, I'm so happy and honored to be on it, to be in the Coffee Book 2023, Unified Brain Z and the other organizations. Thank you so much for giving me an opportunity to be a part of this collection.
The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, can be heard every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego. Life is full of circles, cycles, phases, and stages. It's your choice to ignore or embrace them. Motivational speaker, author, military veteran, and founder of the J.C. Cooley Foundation, James Cooley, and his guest will inspire and equip you to strive for your own greatness and overcome adversities. Listen to The James Cooley Show, It's Your Life, every Sunday at 9 p.m. right here on The Answer San Diego.
For those looking to improve their lives, there's nobody better to turn to than Paula Shaw. Paula helps people regain successful lives by identifying and eliminating self-sabotaging behavior using a multitude of mind-body techniques to identify and resolve their core issues. Working with a wide variety of healing modalities, she provides her clients with the most effective process for their specific needs. To book a session with Paula, call 858-480-9234. That's 858-480-9234.
The James Cooley Show. It's your life. That's right.
Hello, welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life, and I tell you, I am sitting back here learning so much, and I know the audience. I see the numbers. You guys are watching, but you ain't ask no questions. That's okay. As long as you continue to watch and understand, because this guest right here that Paula identified, Dr. Powell, you are. I can sense detect it in you, the vice in you, and the doctor in you, because you identified all of those things and identifying why a person, that already been pulled into that type of organization, why they react, why they stay in it, why they feel that there is no way out, and sometimes stay in it forever.
Mm-hmm.
I want to pick it back up with that one because you were saying, and you reached the point of adult where in 19, 20, 25, whatever that is, they're still in it. And I believe many of them might want to get out, but they don't know how. How do you direct? That's a tough one. Or what would you say to someone that's trying to get out and didn't know how to get out?
You know what, Dr. Powell, before you answer that, I'd just like to stress one thing to our listeners. This grooming process that we've been talking about, it's not 1 or 2 days. It's not an overnight thing. This goes on for a while. I don't know if you might know if there's sort of an average length of time, but this person who's being groomed really believes this relationship exists, right? It's not like, oh, I met a cute guy 2 days ago. It's not that kind of thing, because if they didn't really believe there was a relationship there, they probably wouldn't do the things they're being asked to do. Correct?
Yeah, I think not only if they didn't believe that they were in a relationship, but let's go even with the hope that there is a relationship. It depends on that person and their needs, right? So it goes back to that's like asking a person a question: how long does it take for the average person to fall in love? Well, we know it's the person. It could be love at first sight. It could take 3 months, 4 months. It always depends on the person. Mm-hmm. And keep in mind that predator is studying that person. So that grooming process, as they're going through that grooming process, he or she, because there are female traffickers as well, they're looking at what those gaps are. A pimp once said, "Pimp and trafficker, they're one and the same." A pimp once said that if I cannot find a weakness, I will create one. Think about that for just one moment, because sometimes the bottom foundation can be low self-esteem. So that's why I always say it's not just those that might be in the foster system or the juvenile justice system. I have worked with college students that unfortunately have met that person who now has become a part of their life. Think about even when you think about when you're young and you want to be part of the in crowd, right? And you meet that person that's in the in crowd, and then you turn and flips to do whatever they're suggesting so that you could be part of the in crowd. So sometimes those things that we desire can trump sometimes the things that we're really supposed to be doing.
Yes.
Right?
Yes. And so the question that came up at the end of the last segment was, so what if a person finally goes, I can't do this anymore? What do I do? How can I get out? What is available? What kind of help is there if somebody just says, I've got to get out of this. I can't do it anymore?
I want to preface it with this. Although I know this sounds really depressing, gloom and doom, but there are several survivors of human trafficking that are working in this space, using their lived experience in order to help others' journey out of it. And so I think that that is really important because it is a necessary and very important key to recovery. Because we talked about the shame and how society may see a victim. Whereas if someone with lived experiences is working with that person, they can understand, working with that victim, they can understand them a lot more. I think also the key importance is that when you are working with a victim of human trafficking, don't dictate what you think they want. Because sometimes it's like working with a victim of domestic violence. You know, we see them in these relationships, we want them out. So we will say to them, you know, well, just stop dealing with that person. Well, that's a little harder. It's easier said than done, right? And so the same thing we're working with victims of trafficking, just walk away. What we need to do is walk alongside that person through their journey and asking them, what can I do to help you get out of this? Sometimes within the course of that conversation, they may have questions and that you could facilitate to be able to help them along the way. But I think people will often, because from our heart, we want to see them get out. So we say, you need to get out and find a job. You need to get out and find a place to stay. Well, that's easier said than done. What if they want to start working it out while they're still in that relationship? Now, that's a hard pill to swallow. But you can't turn their back on them. And then maybe that's where you have that conversation of, now, so what does that look like for you? Where are your off ramps? What do you need? What do you need when you decide to take that off ramp? So it's really walking alongside them with that blueprint without judgment. And walking that journey alongside them, not in front of them, not behind pushing them. And then they should always know, because here's the deal. When you're working with victims of human trafficking, here's where it becomes hard. Just like working with a victim of domestic violence, they are going to go back and forth at least 6 to 7 times. You know that going in. What they need to know from you is every time they exit, you are there. You're going to always be, I'm going to be there for you till you tell me you don't want me there anymore. They need to know that. They need that support.
That was a brilliant statement. I love that.
Hey, Paula, she is brilliant. Yeah, I'm sitting here and just listening to this discussion. And Dr. Powell, you know what you're doing. I'm just gonna be real. I mean, you have seen this before.
You know, I want to add too for law enforcement, in case we have some people that are either working alongside law enforcement or law enforcement. You know, the individual that we're talking about is extremely complex, and so we have to also understand that unfortunately they're a product of many victimizations. You know, about 80% of them were molested as children. They're victims of domestic violence, just given the relationships that they're in. There's so many victimizations, unfortunately, that's what makes them complex. So as a result of that, and that's why I go across the country teaching law enforcement this victimology piece, to be able to understand why they're not cooperative, why they don't present as a victim and maybe cussing you out. Why is it that they don't trust you? Why are they going back and forth? Well, if you're a victim, why do you keep going back to your perpetrator? There's so many reasons. And what I have found, and there's a huge paradigm shift, kudos to law enforcement. When they start to understand these victims, they also understand the importance of working with nonprofit organizations that serve these victims. And so therefore, they're working together and working in tandem. You know, the understanding that there's going to be a counseling piece in here, the understanding that there needs to be a lived experience expert to walk alongside as well. It's only then and until then can we not only help these victims that want to, and again, that want to put their perpetrators in jail, because that's the important piece too, because you need a victim in order to have a crime. But I think I also would be remiss if I didn't say this, because it's important. When we talk about human trafficking, and people will say, well, how do we end this? We need to start looking at the sex buyers, and we need to start holding them accountable. Supply and demand, right? We need to also be talking to our young men in society not to objectify women and see women as being a point of entertainment. I know that's a whole nother show, but there's so many things.
Hold that thought. We got to take a station break. Got to pay the bills. I want you to think about what you just said. That's a whole nother show. And we got Black History Month coming up real soon. If you have time, I would love for you to come back on and talk about what you just said. But I tell you, if this is such an incredible discussion, and if you have any questions or anything, you might want to reach out to Dr. Powell right now. Ask her the question, because we only got one more segment. And this is so powerful. And Paula Shaw, you just hit another home run. You always do. So we're going to take a station break, but we're going to come back and continue this great discussion with Dr. Powell and, of course, Paula Shaw. It's your life, and we'll see you shortly after the break. Welcome back to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. And wow. Hey, Paula, I know you always talk about Dr. Powell, and we finally got on the show. I see why this discussion is so important and why it was number one on your list. And we need to get her back on for part 2. If she has time for this.
Definitely.
And I certainly want to get her back on a different type of show. I mean, she's going to reach out to her for Black History.
Great.
The next couple of weeks, if she have time to do that. But I want to pick it back up. There's a couple of things that you said, Dr. Powell, about reforming or trying to, always being there, even when a person take a turn and go back, and then they get another exit and they go back. Can you explain to our viewers and listeners why that's so important, that you're there to continue to guide them and provide help and get them out of the situation that they are in?
And may I, Dr. Powell, can you also incorporate into your answer a little bit about One Safe Place, the Family Justice Center, where I met you, and how that resource can help people, and maybe even carve in a little bit of your why? You are a very dedicated person and have been for a long time. So tell us a little more about you, and let's be sure that we have your contact info before we finish this segment. Okay.
So I think, Dr. Cooley, when you were saying that, I think the first word is trust. Victims of human trafficking, and as we know, victims of any type of abuse or trauma, sometimes, unfortunately, and to me, this is the sad part, the person that they fell in love with most, the person that they loved most, disappointed them and was not there for them. And so trust is very hard to come by. And so I find that when I'm working with victims of human trafficking and they trust me, that's an honor. Mm-hmm. That's an honor. And because it's an honor, it's something that I don't ever want to disappoint. Trust and support. And that's why you need to be there. So if you say, I'm going to be there when you call me, you better be there to pick up the phone. Because when you're not, they're going to go like, see, again, another person in my life who said they're going to be there for me and they're not there. Sometimes it's expectations that you can't always meet. But if you can't meet it, explain it. Let them know it's not going to happen again. So I think that trust piece and that support piece is what they really need in order to gain the strength that they need in order to make it. Because even though they've been through a lot, doesn't mean that they're so broken that they can't pick themselves up again. They can. They just need that support and trust and guidance, and they need help with life-sustaining types of possibilities. And so that's when we talk about One Safe Place in San Diego, kind of a one-of-a-kind place. There's a few places across the country that have done this. Northern California did it at one point with an organization. And that is a one-stop shop where a person can walk in, they could get counseling, they could speak to someone with lived experiences. They can look for someone's going to help them in terms of getting maybe job placement, education. Then let's say they have and unfortunately a lot of them have arrest records. How do I get my record expunged or vacated? How do I put my perpetrator in jail? Because there are attorneys there. And it's ran by the district attorney's office, if I'm not mistaken. So that one stop, because otherwise what happens, all those things that I just named for you are separate entities. So now they've got to go to this place, and then they got to go over to this place. So this all happens in one place. And where's my why? My why is for all the things that have always driven me, regardless of whether it was when I was a elementary school teacher or when I was a police officer. I've always been taught to give back to the community. 40% of victims of human trafficking are African American girls across the nation, and so that part of me of always wanting to give back is what drives me. And when I see victims, regardless of whether it was in law enforcement or being an advocate now, those are the things that will drive me. I think it will always drive me till I'm not here anymore. Always wanting to give back and wanting to help. Not with a savior mentality, because I think that's important not to have. But to just always be there to be able to help them.
That's so beautiful. And tell us your website a place where people could reach out to you if maybe they want you to be a speaker or a trainer for their organization?
So to reach out to me, and we can put up my email. I think that you guys have it as well. But it's Positive Change Consultants is the organization that I'm running right now. So positivechange.org.
And, one last thing, Dr. Powell, if we have a moment, JC, you mentioned this already, but I think it's definitely the lead-in for the next show. The penalties right now for the sex buyer are pretty much like a slap on the wrist and a small fine. That is not going to deter more sex buyers from being out there. And it's the demand that creates, the fulfillment of the victims. So can you give us a little idea, Dr. Powell, what we can do to make that penalty for the sex buyers a bigger deal?
So two things. One, I just wanted to be clear. My website is www.changeconsultants.org. Policies. We just went through a Senate Bill 1414. 1414 basically says that if someone over the age of 18 buys someone under the age of 16 for the purposes of commercial sex, that there is a mandatory minimum of 2 days in jail. That is as of 2025. The intent of SB 1414 was that anybody who buys a minor under the age of 18, because like I said before, if you're I didn't say this, if you're under the age of 18 and you're involved in commercial sex, by your age alone, you are a victim of human trafficking, period. So therefore, if you buy a minor under the age of 18, you're buying a victim of human trafficking. That should be a felony, period.
Yeah.
So we're still fighting that. But, we took the under 16. Shannon Grove is the one that wrote it and has fought it. And it's her plan to at some point come back and fight it. So now we'll take the under 16. But can you imagine that? In Texas, if you buy somebody, anyone, adult or female, adult or minor.
Yeah.
If you buy someone for the purposes of sex, it's a felony. Period. Hard stop.
Wow.
That's how we.
This is crazy. The word "buy somebody" is mind blowing to me. That they got laws on the books. And people are able to do that. I tell you what, we run out of time right now, but I would love to have you back on the show. I'll have a part 2. Paula, if you can set that up, be much appreciated. And I would love to have you on the show for Black History. I'm gonna give you a call if it's okay with you.
Yeah, absolutely.
To talk about that. But this has been an incredible, eye-opening interview. You talked about some things that I know most do not know that exist, or they don't believe exist, but hopefully they know now. So I want to thank you for taking the time to come on the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Paula, always, I love you. You already know that. Thank you so much for all the support that you are giving and bringing these great guests on the show. I'd like to thank Dr. Michelle Cooley for putting together another absolutely fantastic show. Most importantly, I'd like to thank my producers in Dallas and California and all over the place for just dealing with me and making sure that we get good television, radio, and podcasts. And I'd like to thank our viewers and listeners for tuning in to the James Cooley Show. It's your life. Always, always, always dream big, think big, and be big at everything that you do. We'll be back tomorrow, same time, same place. It's your life, and we'll see you then.